you go. We're live now. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Noah back again with the Zone podcast. So today I'm with Brooke Sunwall of Sunwall Consulting. If you want to go ahead, just introduce yourself and to everybody.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. So I, like you said, am Brooke Sunwall with Sunwall Consulting. And what I do is I work with business owners on the fun, nerdy stuff, the systems and the processes. It's so important to help businesses grow and scale and all the sales and the customer service side. So I like to think of us as the backbone of the business. So super important, often overlooked, but who doesn't love spreadsheets and automation and all that good stuff?
Yeah, of course. I mean, some people do love it, some people don't, but that's why you're here. So, how'd you kind of get into all of this, like working in systems and processes with like small businesses?
So I actually started climbing the corporate ladder. I was in retail management, did a lot of operations with them, and then I started working with small business owners in the insurance industry, helping them scale and grow. My husband and I also have a candle business, so we dabbled in the small business side too. And ultimately, just growing up, you think about what does success look like, and it's working 80, 90 hours a week, making lots of money, and then being able to go on trips and buy nice things. And that's kind of what we think success is, and being able to dress nice and all that good stuff. But I also think it's important to see on the small business side that a business can work for you even when you're home with your family. And so being able to look at a new definition of success when you can spend time with the ones that you love. And when it comes to business ownership, it can provide you so much flexibility and stability. And so I'm trying to help business owners who feel bogged down and stressed by owning their business, and help them realize that it can be fun and exciting again. And you can, work 40 hours or even less than that. I was reading a statistic that about 85% of business owners work more than 40 hours a week. When you think, I'm going to open this business and make lots of money and be able to do what I want, but it ends up controlling you. So really want to help kind of bridge that gap between what, they think it's going to be to what it is, and help them stabilize a little bit.
So even with like the systems, what like specific systems would it be? Because you said something interesting with like automation. So, what are kind of like the automation softwares that you've looked at?
Yeah, my traditional process is to eliminate. So what processes and systems do we have that's losing you money? Oftentimes businesses ask, like, am I spending money in the right place? So I want to evaluate first what we have right now. So whether that's, scheduling, POS systems, email automation, any of that stuff, and just make sure our money's going the right place. And then I want to automate. So if you're spending so many times just manually adding things to your calendar, let's go ahead and put a scheduling system in place. I like messaging automation, when it comes to recruiting or even connections on, Facebook, LinkedIn. You got to be careful with some of that stuff. You don't want to get, blacklisted on those platforms, but there's a way to use it properly. And then once we eliminate and automate, we want to delegate. So my goal is to reduce overhead. So not just hire a bunch of people that you're paying, way too much for. I'm also not in the business of saying, like, let's kill all the jobs and use AI. So there's a balance there, but we want to make sure that we're using all of our resources effectively. And then, looking at, do we need to add staff in place?
Okay, you said something interesting about like cutting things out first. So, one of the guys that I watch, Alex Hormozy, he talks about like the wealthiest people that they're not doing something they're not doing something extra. They're not doing what you're doing.
Right.
So, do you kind of agree with that?
I do. I think, you know, it's oftentimes like replacing a habit, or, in life or in business, replacing something. It's not necessarily just eliminating it. So if you eliminate something and you have an extra hour of time in the day, what are you putting in place to move your business forward? So yes and no. But I also think, if you can't look at your business or yourself objectively and say, what can I do better? Or what am I not doing right? Then you're really not going to push your business forward. If you're like, everything's perfect, I'm perfect. Because most of the time not true. But it's hard to look at your business. It's like your child. It's like
Yeah, of
call
course.
your child ugly. You know what I'm saying? So we
Yeah,
have to go into these businesses carefully and not say, here's all the things you're doing wrong, but it's like, okay, what can we do better? What baseline have they created for us?
yeah, and I mean, it's awesome to go to someone like you instead of like a family member or whatever, because they're gonna be like those people with the baby who are like, "Oh, the baby has such cute eyes," and that's how you know that the baby isn't. That's how you know
Yeah,
the baby's ugly.
exactly. And I'm like thinking, whenever you talk about that, I have a 8-month-old little boy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, has anyone said that to me? I'm
Oh
like,
no, 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 no.
no, yeah, exactly. So you have to go in and, protect their ego too, because business owners tend to be very prideful in a good way. Otherwise, you would have had the confidence to go out on your own and like leave your 9 to 5. So yeah, you have to go in a little soft and then, build that trust and then be able to actually, all right, let's sit down. Let's talk real talk here. So it's a fun balance.
So, what do you think from your like corporate life helped you in where you're moving in right now, like into consulting?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is on the operations side. I mean, ultimately, in corporate world and in any job where you report to somebody, if you don't achieve results, your job's in danger. And then when it comes to the corporate side too, I mean, there's all kinds of factors in play there. So I think the rigidness of it helped because I can go in to a business that maybe they've never managed before, and management seems to be one of those pieces that they struggle the most with. And I can talk just some hard truths that they've never heard before because they've never seen that environment. So I think the management side from corporate world really helped a lot, because if you can manage 200 people, you can manage 3 people. And then the operations, just being able to look at a bunch of numbers and figure out what numbers I need, what numbers I don't, and then really how to analyze those. So spreadsheets are my friend.
So what would you suggest to somebody who's wanting to get into even like younger like 18, 17-year olds who are looking to they want to start a business and the number one thing like not the number one thing but something that Mark Cuban said was you should go get your like degree for like you should get a either an online business degree in accounting or something like that because you want to be able to at least talk to the CPA or anything like that. What would you suggest to them if they're trying to get into business?
I go back and forth on the importance of a degree. I think if you're going to go work for yourself and you are like, I'm going to be a business owner and I'm going to be my own boss no matter what, then what do you need a degree for? As long as you have the basis and you have the time that you can do independent studying and systems and all that stuff. I think when it comes to working corporate or 9 to 5s or whatever, where you're working for someone, I obviously understand that a lot of those jobs require degrees.
Mhm.
But I think the biggest thing is personality. There's a lot of things that can be learned. Drive is one of those that can't necessarily be learned. Sometimes it can be developed depending on what you go through in life. But I think the degree shows a level of drive because there's a lot of people who don't, fully graduate, and that's fine. There's a lot of factors in that too. So I see that being the benefit of just saying, okay, can I put my head down and do something for 4 or 5 years, however long it takes you. So yeah, I don't know if that answers, but I go back and forth on that. I think the drive piece is what really sets business owners apart from a lot of just I'm going to go collect a paycheck and go home.
Okay, that
And I
makes
think
sense. So
that helps them be more successful.
okay, and even for that, but picking up the skill of like accounting or something like that, would you suggest they go learn how to do a balance sheet or a spreadsheet or anything like that?
I think it's important to understand. I mean, heck, just go on YouTube and look up, what do
Yeah.
all these things mean? Because I am no accountant. I took 2 accounting classes in college and I couldn't even tell you how to do it. I let QuickBooks handle it and then let my CPA handle it. So I think you also have to know what you need to outsource. Like when it comes to social media, not necessarily my expertise. So I can look at where do I want to spend my time. And that's kind of where, our systems and processes come in place. What
Okay.
are you good at? Where does your time need to be? And then outsource or automate what you're not that good at. So when it comes to like the accounting stuff and the CPA stuff, that is so important for tax reasons and, you know, all that good stuff. That's something you don't want to mess up. So if you're not sure about it, definitely call someone in to help.
It's like all the DIYers or do-it-yourselfers are just like, hey, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this balance sheet by myself, and it's like, nah, hire a CPA, like figure that out.
Yeah, maybe go create something for yourself. Go, you know, do something else, maybe a little less important if you're just gonna go try it.
Yeah. So for business owners, like, how do you utilize tech in your business right now?
So it's going to be for me at this point more of I do business mapping. So I love some systems that I'm testing out a couple more right now, but to help with actually mapping out businesses. So I can one of my favorite thing to do is to go into a business and say, okay, here you are right now, because oftentimes they don't really know what's coming in and out. And then I say, now this is where we want to be. And then I build a plan for them to go from A to B. So the business mapping software that I use, scheduling systems, I've always used Calendly. I know there's plenty of other ones, but and then also, you know, messaging automation for more of the sales recruitment side.
Okay, and then with kind of messaging and automations, I know every single business owner, they usually is lead gen is their bottleneck. So do you help them at all with that lead gen?
Yes and no. So I talk more about here's where we are, here's where we want to be and how to get there. And I will suggest specific systems. But I'm not actually on the implementation side.
Okay.
If they bring me in for that, I'm happy to do that. But my primary goal is to help them kind of work through the mental gymnastics of where I want to be,
Yeah.
and then create that step-by-step plan. So it might be something as, you know, general as add in scheduling software for leads, or, you know, to set calls or something like that. And then if they, you know, want recommendations for that, I'll happily do that. But I'm not as much on the implementation side as I am, hey, you have a lead generation problem, let's put this type of system in there.
Okay. And then also, what are the for entrepreneurs out there, even in partnerships, and then also working with other people? How do you keep track of like what KPIs do you use? Like, what do you suggest? Like, I was on a call earlier before I came here, and I was talking to a mentor, and he was talking about you know which KPIs we all should be keeping track of as different partners in the business. So, like, what KPIs do you kind of bring to the table, and you're like, hey, this is what you need to keep track of?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I work with so many different industries. So they're all a little bit different. So I'll look, you know, at specific industries. So when it comes to, let's say, an online retail spot, I'm looking at, you know, customer interactions, but I'm also, yes, it's important if they like and comment on your post, but are those actually turning into sales?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at more of the revenue side as well as specific product offerings and prices, because if you're selling, you know, this higher end product more often than these lower ones, but you're pumping all your money into these lower end products, you know, we just want to identify, you know, where the majority of our revenue is coming from. But I'm also looking at, you know, more service type industry. I'm going to look at how many leads are coming in your funnel, because you might be working with 3 or 4 clients right now in your service business, let's say, more of like a coaching side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not continuously funneling in leads, by time you get done with those 3, you're empty again, and you're having to start over. So then I'm going to look at kind of that pipeline of talent that they have coming in. Where does that make sense?
Yeah. So for each and every different business, there's a different KPI that they should be keeping track of.
Exactly. And that's why I try to study up on each industry that I'm working with too, because I've been in a handful of industries, but I haven't been in all of them. So it's a lot of research on my end, on the back end of it, just making sure that before I go into business with, a new client that I understand that I can help them and that I am well versed on the KPIs that they have. Because when I get on calls with potential clients, I'm not here to just take anybody's money. You know, I want to make sure that I can actually positively affect their business. So it's, are you willing to do the work? And do you have a vision of where you want to go and you want to push your business forward? I want to help you, and let's work together. Because if it's not a good match for us, you know, business owner to business owner, then it's going to be a tough consulting 90 days that we have, you know. So yeah, lots of factors go into it, but I try to do more research on their industry, even in the just initial conversations, to make sure I fully understand what KPIs they need to be focusing on.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, every single, even with niches, kind of figuring out, like, I know most business owners had the struggle of starting a company and maybe dipping their toes in multiple different niches, especially like marketing companies
Mm-hmm.
and even some online retailers where they're like, hey, do I become like a general store? Like, which type of stuff do I have in there? Do you ever walk in and niche slap somebody and be like, you need to focus on this niche in order to be successful?
Yeah, I'm big on passive income too. So when I mean, I have a client right now that I'm working with that there's things that they could be, you know, selling in the background that they don't even have to work for, but they could be offering it and advertising to it. That way, you know, they get to a certain point, they're like, I physically, because it's more of a labor type job, I physically can't make more money because I am maxed out on my time. So what can we do that in the time that you're already working, that your business is making money for you? So yeah, there's sometimes where it's like, okay, we need to diversify a little bit. Like one company shouldn't have 80%, you know, of your sales shouldn't come from 80% of one company, because if something happens to them, then your business is in trouble. So diversify, but then sometimes you're too diverse and it's like, okay, you sell candles, but also t-shirts and also this, and oh, you
Yeah,
also do lawn mowing, and it's like, what are you doing?
yeah, it's just all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, common message, common theme, common industry, common avatar is what we like to call them. So
Okay, so you're trying to find a, so, and that brings me to another point of like, in the big, my kind of belief is in the beginning you're supposed to be very niche oriented with your company, and as you grow you kind of grow outwards as well. Is that kind of where you're sitting
yeah,
at?
that's where my mind goes as well, because you want to make sure you're really good at your core offering, core product, core whatever. And then as you start seeing needs for other things, adding that in, or even like for our candle company, we have our you know, main line with two different sizes, and then we started adding in a luxury side of it. So we end up hitting different price points, same quality, you know, same scents, all that good stuff. So yeah, I definitely think getting really good at one thing and then starting to expand out, or even growing different teams. Like when on the service side, you know, let's say you have a marketing team, then you want a sales team, and, you know, being able to grow out that way too.
Okay, that makes sense. That,
I like siloing.
wait, what?
As siloing, like putting, so for instance, if systems and processes is my thing and then my partner is sales, then I want to keep them in the sales side so they can get really good at teaching sales to business owners. And that way I'm not, oh, let's do systems and then management and then sales and then, oh, let me do your social media. Like it's just too much for one person, I think, to get really, really good at. So I like to keep them in, you know, their lane.
Okay, okay, that's one of the things that I've been, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Making sure you're staying in your lane and making sure, like, making sure the CMO isn't working on processes and
Right.
everything like that. Okay, that does make
Yeah,
sense.
and for a short time, like when you're in small business, it's not like you always have access to a ton of funds to just keep adding more and more staff to stay, you know, in their lane. So sometimes that's when the process comes into play, is us being as efficient as possible, because processes of address efficiency, and then processes affect effectiveness, and systems address efficiency. So if you're doing something really fast but you're not going anywhere, then that's when you need to add a process into place. If you're doing something right but going really slow, then let's add a system to speed it up or make it better. So yeah, sometimes at the beginning you have to kind of wear a lot of hats as a business owner, but then as you start stabilizing a little bit, then you start adding in, other people or things to help take some of that off your plate.
That makes sense. So, last kind of question I have for you: what's been the most like interesting customer interaction that you've had?
Yeah, this is something that as an analytical person and a systems and process expert drives me crazy when I walk into a business owner's office and we sit down to talk about systems and processes, and I see 37 sticky notes and 10 different notepads. And they're like, hang on, I have a note on my phone too about this. And they go in their backpack and they pull out something else. And you know that the sticky note that's like an accordion, that's what
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's what I think of, like all these things going together. And I'm like, how do you even know what day of the week it is? So I think it's just walking into a business owner's office and just seeing chaos. And I'm like, this is why you're stressed, because you
Yeah,
like
come sweep up.
have everything everywhere and all your notes and information is in 10 different spots. So it's more of pet peeve or that I guess that's why I'm there ultimately. It's to help them with the chaos. So though that's not fun and exciting, it's you walk in and you're like, okay, I am needed here.
Yeah, you're gonna need to come clean everything up. And
Yeah, exactly.
well, other than that, guys, that's Brooke. I'll go ahead and have all of her information in the description, and then go ahead and check her out. All right, guys, I'll catch y'all.